Thank you for listening to the Following Films podcast. Today we're diving into a film that's as much about cinema history as it's about the raw, unsettling power of horror. 50 years after Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre shocked the world and permanently altered the landscape of filmmaking, a new documentary is taking a hard, fascinating look at its legacy. It's called Chain Reactions. The film brings together voices like Patton Oswalt, Takashi Miike, Alexandra Heller-Nicholas, Stephen King, and Karyn Kusama, weaving their personal impressions, memories, and even traumas into a dialogue about how one scrappy, no-budget horror film embedded itself into our collective nightmares and never left. The documentary is written and directed by Alexandre Philippe, a filmmaker who's carved out his own space as the leading voice in what he calls cinema essays. From 7852 to Memory, Origins of Alien, to LYNCH, he's built a career exploring not just movies, but the cultural and artistic forces behind them. With Chain Reactions, he once again peels back the layers of cinematic landmark. Today's episode of the Following Films podcast is brought to you by Google Workspace. We keep things running smoothly and efficiently at the Following Films podcast with the convenience of cloud-based Google Workspace programs. Google Docs lets you work and save on Google Drive. Hangouts lets you video chat. Gmail gives you a professional email, and Calendar lets you organize from anywhere at any time. You should try it and see how it can help your business too. Google Workspace is offering a 14-day free trial, and if you sign up using my link, I can give you an additional discount, and it helps to support the show. Check the show notes for a direct link. Chain Reactions is now playing in Los Angeles and New York, and will expand nationwide on September 26th. Now on to my conversation with Alexandra. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks.
Cool.
How are you this morning?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.
One of my favorite subjects to talk about is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So when I heard about this documentary, I was very excited. So I'm just wondering, the thing that I really was struck by was you took a almost novelistic approach to it. Besides just having chapter headings, most times when we have documentaries like this where you have multiple interviews, you would take the approach to where you would segment by maybe a theme or segment by a moment and have everybody talk about, the whirling chainsaw moment, or everybody talking about, a specific shot. And you decided to let everybody have their own moment and kind of ruminate in their experience with the film, which I actually really appreciated that. Was that the original design or something that you came to once you had all the interviews?
Yeah, no. It's I always design my films beforehand. Of course, things can change, but the design is everything. The narrative structure, and if you don't have that, you're going to meander and you're not going to know where you're going. You know what I mean? So no, that was always the intent, and the intent was to have essentially kind of a Rashomon-like structure where each of those chapters is a distinct perspective from someone who has a very personal relationship to the film. I mean, that personal relationship was really key, I think. Yeah. For me, it's really, Chain Reactions really is about the ways in which Texas Chainsaw got under the skin of the participants as it got under everybody's skin, and under everybody's skin. It's just such a powerful, incredible film. 51 years later, it still has not lost an ounce of its power. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, there's very few films that I will revisit once a year. I don't think, since I saw this when I was maybe 15 and I'm 49 now. So I go back and see this at least probably once every other year. It would be probably 2 years is the longest gap I've ever had in my life where I haven't watched this film. And I don't think I can say that about any other film, that I come back to it that often. And I literally find something new in it every time I revisit it.
Well, I'd be very tempted to turn this on you right now and
Sure.
ask you questions, but I don't know. I don't know if you want to go there, but
no. Well, no, and it was nice to have that one-sided conversation, though, to hear other people's interpretation of it, because I've been sitting with it and had my own thoughts about it for so long. I feel like by hearing each one of the participants talk about it with their own personal experience, I actually gained new insight through every one of them. Every one of these interviews had at least one aha moment, which it was something that, despite having seen this film, 20 times at least, there were things that they uncovered that I had never thought of before. And I really, really appreciated that. And one specific with Alexandra, which is something that's a little bit of a controversy with some people, where they are deeply tied to how they originally saw the film. So it was like a grainy VHS 4:3 version of it. And for me, I just want to see the closest to the way it was intended to look when it first came out. Not my relationship with it, but I'm wondering if you have a preferred format that you go to the film.
So this is big, not just for the film, because this is very much what the film is about, right? It's about how the multiple ways in which you can experience a film completely changes or colors your feeling about that film. But as this is actually kind of a new page in my career as well. I would say, as a filmmaker, I'm more and more interested now in this idea that film is a living and breathing medium. To the point where I really want to celebrate the Australian KTEL VHS as much as an old 35mm grindhouse, as much as the 4K UHD restored version. And I got to tell you, I'm increasingly against this idea, and I get it, right? I mean, when a distributor releases, the fully restored 4K UHD, and they call it the sort of definitive version, this is the way to watch the film. Well, yeah, it's a way to watch the film. It is probably the cleanest, best, most intended way to watch a film. But I want to challenge that notion, and I want to challenge my notion by saying that a film, especially a film like Texas Chainsaw, actually is really worth also seeking out in other formats, in other ways. In fact, we're doubling down on this, and I'll tell you right now, because one thing to look forward to, I think, for Texas Chainsaw fans and cinephiles, is when we release Chain Reactions on disc, which is coming up in a few months. It's going to be a 3-disc Blu-ray box. And there will be 8 distinct transfers of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on it.
Wow.
Including the 35mm grindhouse that you've seen, including the Australian VHS, a couple of 16s, the abridged Super 8,
that's
all
so
kinds
cool.
of stuff. So yes, of course, the 4K UHD, the restored version, is the, you have to watch it that way, right? This is the closest to the intended version of the film.
Sure.
However, putting it on, and look, I mean, recently I was at the Melbourne Film Festival, and they did a big screen, presentation of the KTEL Australian VH. It was a packed house, 350 people. It was unbelievable. I had never experienced Texas Chainsaw in that way, and it's almost a different film. It's almost, there's something so dangerous about it that it just takes you, it's like it gives you a very different kind of entry point into the film. So to me, it's all worth embracing and celebrating in different ways.
Well, I never would have made the connection to Hanging Rock, and that would have never, those films would have never connected to me.
There you go.
The way it's lined out, you're like, oh, I can absolutely see that connective tissue that's there, that it just makes perfect sense. And I think the thing that matters around that is context. Because if you're going into it blind, and it's, if you uncover this dirty little VHS and you put it on, you don't know anything about it, I think that has a wildly different impact than you find this very clean, pristine steelbook 4K transfer. It's in a beautifully presented box set. It kind of it might take away from that feeling like you've uncovered something you shouldn't have found. Like when we were 12 years old and we watched Faces of Death, that kind of thing, where it has that dirty feeling to it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, look, if you're going to watch the film once in your life, then of course, watch the 4K UHD.
Yeah.
If you're going to watch it multiple times, then treat yourself to, different presentations of it, and that's really worthwhile. Yeah.
Well, I have my VHS copy of it still, but it's something that's more, it's just it's shelf aesthetic. It's not the one I go to because it's just
Sure.
the context of I would need to go find a tube television to watch that on because it's typically
Yeah.
like if I'm just trying to upscale on my Blu-ray player, it kind of looks doesn't look right when I do that.
Right, and you don't want to do that, right?
Yeah,
And that's, I mean, that defeats the whole purpose, I think,
right.
of the. But do you actually have the original Wizard video?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no,
oh, okay,
not
okay.
the Wizard. My personal copy of it that
Oh,
I
okay.
had from when I was God, I was 14 or 15 when I got
Oh,
this.
so
I'm
you
trying.
recorded it or something
Yes,
on?
exactly. Yeah,
Oh, wow, that's
yeah,
even cooler. Wow, with
yeah.
ads and stuff, or does it have?
This would have been it wasn't Joe Bob, but it was a late night horror TNT type thing where it
Oh,
was one of
dude.
those deals. So yeah, I still have that out there somewhere. And it's one of those things that I should revisit it at some point in time just for the kick of seeing what the commercials were at the time. You know, those things
Well,
that we
if you ever digitize it, I seriously like I would love a transfer of it.
oh yeah.
I would I would be delighted because
Okay.
that's another way to watch it. Yeah, for
There you
sure.
go. That's easy to do. I'm happy to do that for you. Yeah, that's easy.
Oh, that's
So
cool. Yeah,
so
yeah.
then the other thing that I was really struck by when I watched this was I think the idea of the solar flares in the beginning
Yeah.
that Patton talks about, that he really focused on that in a way that I had never thought about this as sort of a larger infection story that's going on, that this is something, the start of a plague, start of something bigger, that it always, to me, felt like a man exposed to nature kind of thing. And this is us in our most primal, all of society has crumbled. You know, these people that are left on their own, they don't have that support system that we all need. This is what we are at our rawest form, kind of that
Yeah.
aspect of it. But him taking that, I is that when I heard that, that was like, what a beautiful interpretation that I absolutely do not agree with one bit, but I love hearing that. It's just, and I love that
Yeah.
about this film, that his interpretation is 100% valid though. So
Well,
I'm,
that's the point, right? Is that to me that's the whole thing is that now we talked earlier obviously about sort of this idea of or debunking this idea of a definitive
yes,
version of a film. But I also now, want to get into this idea of like, well, I also want to debunk this idea that there is a definitive way to appreciate or interpret a film,
I
right?
agree.
Even if the director says, well, this is what I intended, okay, fine. But that doesn't mean that we can't have different interpretations. I mean, that is the essence of what it means to be a cinephile is that
Absolutely.
we bring our own viewpoint and perspective and ideas to the table. And the joy of that is to have those conversations and not say, well, I'm right, you're wrong, but to say, we're all, like I'm getting something from your way of seeing things. And how about I'm going to give you something and you're going to get something out of that? I mean, it's, we'd be in a much better world, by the way.
With, yeah,
Yeah, politically, if we actually also behave like this as humans. I mean, that's what it means to be human, and that's what storytelling is all about. Sharing stories.
well, I love probably being wrong more than anything when it comes to things
Yeah,
like this. That when
yeah,
somebody opens me up to something and it just cracks your mind open in a way that you had never thought about before, and you see meaning where you didn't see it before, and you took something on a very surface level, and there was something underlying the whole time. But the idea of a director talking about something, and not to be insulting, but I think a director is too close to the material as it's discussed in this to actually see what the film is, the societal impact of the things that we are. Look at Night of the Living Dead as an example,
yeah,
where Romero says that he cast Ben based on just he was the best actor because somebody dropped out. This was the best actor that he could find at the time. But when you're doing this literally like right in the middle of the civil rights movement, in the shadow, I think of Martin Luther King's assassination, and that
mhm.
he has a black man slapping a white woman in the middle of the movie, it's impossible for audiences not to take a racial component to the film. But he says it was never intended.
Well, and I will say, I mean, because I mean, this is actually really something that I study, and this is something that multiple of my films are about. It's about the zeitgeist blowing through an artist,
Mm,
and this idea that I'm much more interested in what great artists do, unconsciously or subconsciously
yeah.
than what they do consciously. I mean, this is what my film Lynch Oz is about. It's about
Yes.
yes, of course, Wild at Heart is interesting, and it's he references very consciously the Wizard of Oz, but I think I'm much more interested in the instances of the Wizard of Oz that manifest themselves in the cinema of David
In
Lynch
the other.
in ways that I'm sure he's not fully aware of. I mean, heck, I'm even going to throw you another thing out there. For years, I've been saying I'm waiting for the Trump era to somehow get in the horror genre in a way that a filmmaker does not fully intend. And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and I think that film is Weapons. Weapons is the first great movie, and I really want to talk to Zach about this. I really want to ask him about this because I think you can absolutely read the film as about being about Trump, and the Trump era and the way that we're sort of divided, we're weaponized against each other. I don't think he intended that to be the case, but I think it happened through him.
Well, you have this unseen force that's guiding people and weaponizing grief, weaponizing pain to turn people against each other. And then when you actually confront the man behind the curtain, not unlike Oz, it's this goofy image, and there is a silliness to it that it's, there is a reality show host behind the curtain at the end of the day, and it will be something that I think history looks back.
100%.
It'll be an interesting analysis of this time period once we have some distance.
Well, we're going to wake up from this at some point. I hope sooner rather than later, and we're all going to go, what the fuck were we thinking? What was hell? Yeah. So yeah, but I really hope it happens sooner rather than later. Yeah.
But an incredible movie, and another one of those that I think that it's too easy, it's too soon to sort of throw those sort of, it is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque film on it, but it is one that absolutely lends itself to multiple interpretations, and one that just demands revisiting almost instantly.
It's an important film. It's a very important horror film, and I'm very excited that it exists. And I'm super excited to see what he does next as well.
100%. Yeah, I'm 100% on board. And I know we're out of time right now, but I'm absolutely excited, thrilled for the idea of this box set coming out with these multiple editions of it that I can see of Texas Chainsaw and have that easily at my fingers without having to, scrub flea markets and go around on eBay and pay way too much for these editions of the film. So this is great, man. But congratulations. You managed to open up a conversation further that I didn't know that there was more that I could learn about this film, which just excites me.
There's always more. And that's the thing. Any great film, I mean, truly, like I could make Texas Chainsaw film. I mean, films about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If this were my assignment to do this for the rest of my life, I could make that. I would never run out of ideas. It's kind of scary, but this is true of every great film. I mean, it's just, there's no bottom to it.
So, and just to kind of wrap things up here, with Wild at Heart and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, those were two films that I saw, I think, probably within a year of each other, because I'm 49. So I think I was probably about 14 when I saw both of those, 14, 15, somewhere in that range. Yeah. And those are two films that absolutely changed my perception of what films could be. And they're ones that I have not stopped revisiting. And I don't know that it's just because I think art that hits you at that developmental age, be it music, film, literature, it's just, I think they just embed themselves into your DNA. And I just got really fortunate that I happened to have come across some pretty important work. So thank you for allowing me to revisit these films through different lenses. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And well, I'm sure we'll talk again at some point.
I really hope so, man. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.